And it makes me all the more curious and excited about what may come in 7 days in the United States election. I can't even believe it's upon us. Last night was the night where Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's third Supreme Court pick, was sworn in by Clarence Thomas. What a sight. The left was spitting bullets. They were so furious. They were so mad, even though it's, that's how the Constitution does it. As the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg herself said, the president doesn't stop being president a year before the end of his term just because he's campaigning. He is still the president for 4 years. He still gets to nominate judges. Listen to RBG herself.
The president is elected for 4 years, not 3 years, so the power that he has in year 3 continues into year 4, and maybe some members of the Senate will wake up and appreciate that that's how it should be.
Okay. But boy, were the sore losers out in force, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was one of a growing number of Democrats who stated if the Democrats win the election, they'll want to rig the court by expanding its size so greatly so they can pack it with a bunch of liberals to turn it into a partisan court. That's also something Ruth Bader Ginsburg specifically opposed.
Term limits, what are you worried about?
Well, what was the other? You mentioned
Adding the number, changing the number of justices.
Oh, yes, yes. There is no fixed number in the Constitution, so this court has had as few as 5, as many as 10. 9 seems to be a good number, and it's been that way for a long time. I have heard that there are some people on the Democratic side who would like to increase the number of judges. I think that was a bad idea when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt tried to pack the court. His plan was for every justice who stays on the court past the age of 70, the president would have authority to nominate another justice. If that plan had been effective, the court's number would have swelled immediately from 9 to 15, and the president would have 6 appointments to make. You mentioned before the court appearing partisan. Well, if anything would make the court appear partisan, it would be that. One side saying, when we're in power, we're going to enlarge the number of judges, so we will have more people who will vote the way we want them to.
What is it, this fury on the left? I mean, there's a fury on the right too, but the threats to rip up the Constitution, threats to burn down cities, literally burn them, that's all on the left. Show me a conservative protest that's been violent. Show me a Republican loser so sore he wants to rip up the Constitution just because he loses an election. Whether it's about the courts or the Electoral College or whatever, I've never seen such sore losers as the Democrats. And if Trump wins again next week, which is a possibility, you will see riots and probably even, I don't know, suicides on the left. Some of them really believe what they're saying. I get it. Look, everything's at stake. But at the end of the day, there should be some life outside of politics. Alas, to the left, the personal is political. Every single thing in life must be political and must be fought over. And since many choices are on, off, yes, no, since many things are a zero-sum game, like there was only one person who was added to the Supreme Court last night, and it was Trump's pick. The daily ebb and flow of politics, the small losses feel unbearable to the left, which I believe has grown to hate America itself. Hate it because they want to change it, but hate it because it does not seem to want to be changed as they want it to be. I believe it is more than just a talking point when Donald Trump Jr. points out, if you see an American flag on a house, you pretty much know it's Republican, not Democrat. I'm afraid that's largely right these days, and it was not always that way. Here's an interesting animated graph from the liberal Pew Research showing that over the last 20 years, Americans have become more divided. They're not just on a spectrum. They don't just disagree with each other in incremental ways. They are totally apart. They just don't see things the same. There's little overlap anymore. That's why next week's U.S. election will feel so calamitous, especially to the left if Trump wins. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.